All right, all right, all right. Here we are, y'all. Here we go. Here we are. Here we go. 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 We live. We are live. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Good to see everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. I am super excited as always to be here. Um, so just want to make sure that I got everything how it needs to be so that we can enjoy the best experience. I'm super excited to see each and every one of you. So come on in, come on in, come on in. We don't want any speakers popping up unexpectedly around here. So let me just go ahead and get that sorted out. Turn off all alarms because we are here. We are here. We are live. How y'all doing? So you know how this goes and you know who I am. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. This is Celebrity Mary, and it's 11 o'clock by my watch. So you know what that means. It's time for MoneyFest Destiny, baby. I'm out here leading with love and governed by peace on the MoneyFest Destiny show. This here is the gospel of money because money is your God-given right. It's a different kind of Bible study, and I do this each and every Sunday at 11 o'clock a.m., which, of course, we all know is the most segregated hour of the week. How y'all doing? How's everybody's week been? How's everybody's week been? Hold on, I'm just clearing up a couple things so that when you come on, I can see you. So Facebook doesn't always tell me who's here. So the only way I know that you're here so that I can acknowledge you is if you send me a little message. Say, hey, Goddess, let me know you here. Hey, Celebrity Mary, how you doing? And I'm going to be like, hey, girl, I'm good. How you doing? Please make sure that you are tagging, posting, sharing, doing watch parties, the whole nine, because I got something juicy, juicy, juicy for you today. I got something y'all gonna like. I always have something y'all gonna like. Y'all know how I get down. I'm into it. I'm into pleasing my people. I like it. I like it. I like it. So, of course, you know that I have a dial-in number, a call-in number. You are welcome to call in and join me each and every Sunday. The phone number, as usual, is 669-900-6833, and the webinar ID is 766-687-876, and your participant ID is 40, the number 40. That's you, not me. That's you. You got to give me some feedback. Let me know if I'm hitting all the marks that you want me to hit. Let me know what you want me to talk about in upcoming weeks. If you think there's someone who should be a guest on the show, make sure you let me know about that. And of course, like I said, I always like to get a little bit of feedback. So make sure you stay to the end of the show because I always give exciting announcements about business credit. And I got some other stuff happening right now that is popping. I can't wait to share it with you. I can't wait to talk to y'all about just about a whole lot of stuff. So make sure you're staying connected with me. I met some great folks this week. In the past couple weeks, I've been really meeting some people who are giving me the impression and making me feel like this was definitely the right move for my family and I. Of course, as usual, there are caveats, warnings, and disclaimers about this here show that you're about to see. Don't assume that a person is lying just because you've not ever heard the teaching before now. Any opinions that are expressed on this show are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of the show. And any advice that's given is based on personal experience and independent research by the speaker. So engage at your own risk. Again, this is the MoneyFest Destiny show. We are out here solving real problems. And this week we are talking about what God has to say about the laws of the harvest. Now, I did get some inspiration from some work that I found on the internet to kind of help lead this discussion and help me stay on target and stay a little bit focused. So I want to make sure that I put that out there, give credit where credit is due. I didn't cite the website because I'm not using it verbatim, but I did like what they had to say. So I got a little inspiration from some people on this, and mostly because Jesus just didn't talk a lot about the harvest. That tells me something, but we'll talk about what that says to me a little bit later. Make sure that you are using the hashtags 2020 boss up. Y'all know how I like that. Make sure you hashtag and Celebrity Mary. Make sure that you're getting at me about some of this stuff that I got going on. You see it, it's in the description. You know it's there. Make sure that you're following me. Just hover over my name and you'll see where it allows you to follow me. Make sure that you click follow. And then when you click follow, choose see first. That way you'll get a notification every time I go live. Also, make sure that you have liked and are following my page, Celebrity Mary Golden Hearts Holdings. If you are interested, I'm still so excited about the Black Doll Affair and becoming an ambassador for the Christmas party here. The date is certain, so save the date, December 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Save the date. Put it on your calendar. If you're in the Hampton Roads area, make plans to attend. I am going to be so excited to see you there. Make sure you come with a black doll in your hand, a doll baby to give away. If you don't have a doll baby, then just bring a paper doll donation. I'll show you. You got to do it online. So don't bring cash. Make sure you come with it on your card. Okay. All right. So, by the way, make sure that you're following me on Twitter, Periscope, and IG. I am Celebrity Mary. On Twitter, it's Celebrity Mary _. But you'll see me. You'll see my pretty face. You'll know it's me. And make sure you join my Facebook group, Celebrity Mary Presents Bag Lady Revive. Remember, BAG is an acronym. It stands for Blessed, Anointed, and Gifted. So make sure you're doing that. Now, on this show, we know a couple of things. And the first thing that we know is that after God, money is the second most discussed topic in the Bible. Don't believe me? Check it out for yourself. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't be coming to you every single week talking about this. Hey, Freddie. Hi, Terry. Hey, cousin. Hey, Pokey. Thank you very much for joining. If these things were not true, I would not be wasting my time telling you or me, because, ministry comes to me first. I can't tell you unless I get it. So I would not be wasting my time telling you all of this if it were not true. The other thing that we know is that the way that wealth is distributed in our society is at best inequitable. It's certainly out of balance. I had a great discussion. I was at a birthday dinner last night and we had a whole conversation about this yet again. We talk about this a lot. Hey, Judith, thank you very much for joining. We talk about this a lot. The fact that wealth is distributed in very inequitable ways. Now, notice I didn't say unequal. I said inequitable. Equal would mean that everybody gets the same thing, no matter what it is and no matter how much work you put into it. But equitable is based on your station and what your contribution is. It should not be great rise and love. I love you. Oh, I miss you so much, Judith, with your pretty self. Equity is based on, what you bring to the table. It's not necessarily your labor, but what you bring to the table. And everyone should be feeling some level of equity for the things that they do and what they bring to the table. However, those who are of the poor and the working class, those people we know make up 95% of the world's population, but they only share in 5% of the world's wealth. Sounds out of balance and inequitable to me. We know that most of the people in the poor and the working class who are receiving so little of the world's wealth, but make up such a big part of the world's population, we know that they're not getting equitable shares. And we talked about this before. If you live in the United States, you really are already a part of the wealthy and the elite. You might not feel like that because you're comparing yourself to other Americans. But when you start looking around this here globe that we call Earth, and it becomes apparent really quickly that, yeah, you are definitely a part of the wealthy and the elite. And I'm going to prove it to you in a couple ways. The wealthy and the elite make up about 5% of the world's population, but they share in 95% of the world's wealth. That sounds a little out of balance too, now doesn't it? Right? We've talked about this before. If there was only $100 in the world and there were 100 people, the wealthy and the elite would be 5 of those people and they would have 95 of those dollars. And they would share that amongst themselves. And the poor and the working class, well, they would make up 95% of that population and they would only have $5 to share amongst themselves. And we see this play out in the world. Want me to prove it to you? I'm going to tell, here it go. The United States of America makes up less than 4.5%. 4.5% of the entire population of the world. Yet, we consume over 85% of the world's resources. See what I'm talking about? You see how you are actually a part of the wealthy and the elite? Again, if you're comparing yourself to other Americans, you might not feel so wealthy and so elite. You might not. But I'm here to let you know that one, you are. And two, you can do something to become even more wealthy without causing harm to other people. You can do that. You can do that. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a lot about this harvest thing. I can't get off of it. I've been on harvest for about 3 weeks. And that is because in my life, right now, as we're speaking, I feel my wealth. I feel it, y'all. I mean, I can't front. I feel it. And my hope is that you guys will feel your wealth too, because y'all are just as wealthy, if not wealthier than me. So, and I'm feeling my wealth. Hey, Willie, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you being here. So we are going to talk this morning. I'm cutting out the frame. I'm cutting the frame down to right there. Usually I do about 30 minutes on stating the problem and framing this discussion and all this other stuff. But today I really want to talk about the some of these harvest laws. And what was funny to me, like I said, harvest is, so when you think of harvest, you think about, you remember what your grandma told you, you're gonna reap what you're gonna sow, you're gonna reap what you sowed. If you're running in spiritual circles kind of like I am, you're gonna be hearing words like karma, and what goes around comes around. All of that is referring to the harvest. Well, Jesus did not do a lot of talking about the harvest. In fact, last week I shared some scriptures with you about what Jesus had to say about the harvest. And when I tell you, pretty much that's it. That's all he actually said. That's all Jesus actually said, right? So we're going to get into that. Hey, Kurt, thank you very much for joining. Before I get into it, I almost got ahead of myself. I got to tell you 2 more things before I get into it. The first thing is that, there is a foundational scripture for this show. And you also know that I typically am coming to you from the New American Standard Version of the Bible. I like the plain speak. I like that this interpretation was came about after the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, so it's pretty complete. And I just think that we should be making it plain so that he who hears it can run. So the foundational scripture of this show is Proverbs 22:17, and it is thus: incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your mind to my knowledge. And that's 22:17a. Okay. So that talks to us about economic healing. And I feel like economic healing is the foundation. It's the building block that you need in order to get to financial dignity. And then, of course, the capital inclusion. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. I've been on this economic healing where we're talking about this harvest thing for the last 3 weeks, and I'm probably going to be here for a little while longer because, like I said, I feel it. And plus, this is harvest season. This is the time of year when people begin to kind of reap. This is agriculturally, this is the time of year when people are supposed to be bringing in the harvest from the seeds that they planted back in the spring and the summer. So this is that time. Now, that scripture talks to you about being open to hearing new information and being prepared to apply new information. I've heard it said that knowledge is power, but we recognize that true power is actually applied knowledge. It does you no good to just hear the knowledge, to just know. At this point in our history, it's better to know how, so that we can begin to move in those areas, and so we can get the traction that we need to get, so that we can move and have the lives that we want to have, right? So remember, we do have a call-in number. You are welcome to call in 669-900-6833. The webinar ID is 766-687-876, and your participant ID is the number 40. Okay, so feel free to call in if you would like to. Kurt says purpose over preference, faith over fear, submission over skills. Okay, all right, okay, if you say so, Kurt. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about purpose over preference, faith over fear, always, submission over skills. Let's see. So the scriptures so last week I came to you from the NLT, and we talked about Matthew 9:35 through 38. This is the only time that Jesus really talks about the harvest. And, Jesus at this time He's in his ministry, he's on his mission, he's traveling around everywhere. He's traveling, and he's talking to people, and he's sharing the good news about the kingdom. He is spreading the gospel. He's shedding the gospel abroad. The same commission that he's given to his apostles, he's doing this. He's healing people as he goes. Keep that in mind. As he goes and he's doing this, he's sharing the good news, but he's also bringing good news into the lives of these people. They sow seeds of faith, and he gives them harvest of healing. But that's another conversation for another day. That felt real good to me. But he's looking around, he's feeling kind of overwhelmed, might not be the right word, but that's the word that I'm going to use. He's feeling kind of overwhelmed, and he's overwhelmed with compassion for these people, because he's looking at them and he can see that they are just confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd, is what the Bible says. And he turns to his homeboys, he turns to his disciples, and he says to them, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord, who is in charge of the harvest, and ask him to send more workers into his fields. He's saying, in that moment, Jesus is like, dog, I'm doing all this pretty much by myself. I'm doing all this work pretty much by myself. And when I leave, because remember, Jesus said he laid down his life. No one took it from him. He laid down his life. So he knew that he was leaving. He intended to leave. That was the plan from the beginning. It was never his intention to stay here on earth. He knew that he had to go back from whence he came in order to prepare a place. If you believe the Bible, that's what the word says. He went ahead to prepare a place for those who would follow him. And while he's there, while he's here on earth, he's talking to his disciples, and he's like, there's so much. Look at all these people. There's so much harvest, but there's so few people out here to gather it up. Let me ask you this in your own life, just in practical terms. I want you to think about this for a second, just in practical terms, practical, everyday, three-dimensional, mundane, heavy stuff. What would happen to a harvest that didn't have enough workers to reap it in, to bring it in? What would happen to fields that are left with ripe fruit in them over time? I mean, I want you to just think about that. It becomes overgrown. It becomes unkempt. It's completely fertile ground. Things continue to grow. A lot of life can happen in there. A lot can happen. But it's not organized. There's no way really to share it. Like, it's just kind of up for grabs. The fruit end up going bad. The beauty of fruit going bad is that when fruit rots, it drops seeds. The seeds fall into the ground, and depending on what the climate is, those seeds will most of those seeds will root. A lot of those seeds will root and grow new trees or plants or whatever it is. But it's just kind of wild overgrowth. You can't really use it. You can't. So in our system, we process food so that we can share it, right? That's the reason for food being processed. You don't necessarily process food. You don't really bring in a harvest just for you. When you bring in a harvest, it's so that you can share it. It's so that it can be multiplied out. That's what it's for. That's what goes down. But if there's no one, if there are no workers to bring it in, what happens to it? It's just left for a while, right? So Jesus is looking around, and he's like, all these people, they like sheep without a shepherd. They just round here. They just on earth. Look at all these sick people that I'm having to heal. They just here. What's going to happen to these people if there is no shepherd? If there is no one to guide them? If there's no one to help them? What's going to happen to these people? So anyway, let's talk a little bit. We're going to go into the laws of the harvest, right? And I got a couple of scriptures. These, because Jesus spoke so little about the harvest, I had to kind of go looking around the Bible for harvest. And I realized, I paid attention, and I noticed that most of the time when harvest is discussed in the Bible, it happens in the Old Testament. And it makes sense, because in that culture, that's how people made their living. They planted things, they grew, they were an agrarian society. They planted things, they grew things, they brought those things in, they processed them in a way, and then they went and they sold them, and that's how they got the money that they needed in order to exchange for the things that they would need for their comfort and security in their homes. So the harvest was a big deal. Well, by the time Jesus came along, this was just the way it was. There was like no real discussion about what the harvest is. Everybody just knew it. It'd be kind of like us talking about grocery stores right now. Like you wouldn't, how often do you think about what it took in order to get the food that you're going to buy from the grocery store into the grocery store? Probably rarely, if ever. Most people are not thinking about that. So that's kind of what harvest would have been like by the time Jesus came along. So, but there's still, you still can get some, I found some good examples to go along with this teaching that we're discussing here. So law number one of the harvest, the first law of the harvest is this: you can only reap what has been sown. If there's nothing, if you don't plant orange seeds, you cannot expect to have oranges as a harvest. You can only reap what's been sown. So I'm going to take you to 2 Corinthians 9 and 10. It says, now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. This is in the New American Standard Version of the Bible. All right. If you are going to be, and you are, trust me, you are going to be sowing. You sow every time you open your mouth. You sow every time you open your eyes. Every time you show up on earth, you are sowing something into someone in some kind of way. And everything that you sow is going to manifest itself in some way in your life. It is law. It has to happen. So you want to be careful and mindful about who you're receiving your seed from. You want to be careful and mindful about who you are sowing your seed to, where you're sowing your seed at, what you're putting into this earth, because it's coming back. It's like I said, some people call it karma. I say this is just universal law. It just is what it is. There's just no way around the fact that we live in an inclusive universe. So there's just no way around getting back what you put out. Just no way around it. So the first law is that you can only reap what has been sown. So again, if you're not, for instance, sowing, so we're talking about money, right? So if you're not putting your money in ground that is fertile and that will grow, if you're just throwing it away, because we know about the seed and the sower. We know about that guy. We know about the guy who sometimes seeds fall into stony ground, and sometimes seed falls amongst the thorns and the thistles, and sometimes it falls into fertile ground, and there it can take root, sprout up, and grow. We know about that. But there has to be a seed. That's the first thing that has to happen. There has to be a seed. And every time you open your eyes, you are sowing into this earth. Every time you open your mouth, you are sowing into this earth. So whatever you are sowing is what you're going to reap. That's the first one. Galatians 6 and 9 say, let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time you will reap if you don't grow weary. That to me is law number 2. You reap, and that law 1 and 2 go together. You reap the same in kind as you sow. So whatever you putting out there, that's what it means. Whatever you do comes back to you. Whatever you are putting out there into the universe, that's what you're going to see coming back. That's law number 2. Whatever you put, again, if you want oranges, then you have to plant orange seeds. If you want money, you best to be planting some money seeds somewhere. Now, how do you do that? Let's talk about that a little bit. How do you plant money seeds? Now, in the church, when I was in church on a regular basis, we were taught to tithe. We were taught to give. We were taught to do things that would cause our money to, we were told that we were planting our money seeds into fertile ground. And for the most part, I mean, you can see what your money is doing. You can see whether you agree with it or not, is another discussion. But you can see, I mean, you come to the same building and the lights are still on. You come to the same building and the doors are open. Greetings, Donna. Thank you very much for joining. You come to the same building and the water run, the toilet's flush when you flush your toilet. So you can see where your money is going. You can see that the pastor is showing up and he looked like he, slept in a bed last night and not in the streets. He drove a car. He didn't have to, catch the bus to get there. You can see where the money is going. Again, whether or not you agree, that's another conversation for another day. And I ain't got listen, I done had this conversation with a lot of people. I ain't got no issues. I'm under no illusions about what church is. If you walking into a church, there is an edifice, there is a building that costs money to run. So when you're putting money in the collection plate, you are not helping yourself by grumbling about how the pastor is spending the money or the deacon board or whoever is spending the money. You're not helping yourself by doing that. You're not, because you still putting money in the collection plate. And again, you can see it. You don't have to necessarily agree, but you can see it. You come to the same building, you got running water, lights, heat, cool when it's hot. I mean, come on, man. You got vestments sometimes. If you're doing communion, you got communion. You got the stuff. So the money is there. You can see that the money is going into the church, and because again, you got some place to go. So whatever it is that you're sowing, you're going to reap that kind of thing back into your life. Now, let's say that let's again, we're talking about money, but let's move it from the money to something less tangible. If you sow, for instance, kindness into the lives of other people, do you not see kindness come back into your life? You can count it however you want to count it. But if you're being kind to people, you must receive kindness back. It's law. It just has to happen. You might not be willing to admit it because you may be sowing kindness with the expectation that if I do this particular thing for you, then you are going to have to do this or some other thing for me. And that's not necessarily how it works. The Bible said, or the law says that you have to reap the same kind as you sow. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to receive it from the same source or in the same way. But a kindness is given back to you because you've sown kindness. That's just how this works. You can't get around the law. Oh, by the way, I meant to say this earlier. We have to establish between us what we understand law to be. And I will tell you that a law, we get confused because we're raised in a culture that tells us that laws are on the books, right? They call those things laws, but the truth of the matter is they're not laws. They're ordinances, they're statutes, they're codes, they're guidelines, they're all these different things, but they're not laws. And the reason that they are not laws is this. A law is immutable, means it cannot be changed. There is nothing that can change a law. For instance, there is this one law that we all know beyond the shadow of a doubt. We have no questions about this law. It is called gravity. Gravity is the reason you don't fly up off this earth. Okay? If you believe that the earth is flat, I ain't talking to you. It's a whole other conversation to have. But gravity is the reason why us, the plants, the grass, the buildings, the reason we're tethered to this earth is a law called gravity. Gravity cannot be changed. It can be suspended. This is how you get, and all that is really is getting an equal and opposite force to act on the same subject at the same time. That's how you suspend gravity, right? That's what zero gravity is. It ain't like gravity is gone. It just, you are doing something to cause gravity to not have the same effect on a subject at that time. But the law still exists. Once you remove whatever that equal and opposite force is that is suspending gravity in the moment, once you remove that, immediately gravity comes back in. One time, let me give y'all this. Let me tell y'all this. One time, One time, a long time ago, I was involved in a one car accident. I was driving. It had been raining, and my vehicle at the time hydroplaned off of the highway, went over an embankment, and flipped over. By the time the car finished rolling over, I was hanging upside down in the car. And I was so astounded by what had happened in this thing. This is back in this would have been, I want to say 2005, maybe. It was in the arts. It's a long time ago. But the car, I'm hanging, I'm upside down in this car, and I'm just astounded by what just happened. Hi, Guy. Hi, Ijera. Thank you very much for joining. I'm just astounded by what just happened, by what I just experienced. I'm flabbergasted. I'm shocked. And I hear people, because some people saw it happen, so they immediately came over, to help. And I'm hanging there. I'm upside down. And I can hear the people, but I'm just kind of surveying and looking. And in my mind, like, the mind is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. The brain is real cunning, and the brain knows how to keep you alive. So my brain started telling me, it's going to cost this much money to fix this thing. It's going to cost this much money to fix this thing. It's going to cost this much money to fix this thing. I just rolled over in a car. And all I could think about is how much this is all going to cost to fix, right? So I hear the people saying, they were calling out to me and I wasn't responding. So they thought maybe I was unconscious. And someone said, break the window. And I thought to myself, oh my God, how much is that going to cost? And I said, no, I'm coming out. Don't break it. Don't break it. Right? Here's the point that I'm making. I'm there and I'm hanging upside down. And as soon as I heard that, I decided the most important thing in that moment was to keep them from breaking the windows. So I told them that I responded. I said, I'm coming out. And what I did was I pressed the button on my seatbelt, and immediately I was no longer suspended from gravity. Immediately I fell on the top of my head. Thankfully, it was only about that much space. It ain't like, because I was hanging upside down. My seatbelt was suspending the law of gravity for my head, right? So I hit the button and bam, there I am. I hit my head. That was the first time I realized, damn, I've been in an accident. Like, for real, this is a real accident. And, and I crawl out the back and get out of the car. But the point that I was making is, in that moment, I was suspended. I was in midair, per se, because if I didn't have on my seatbelt, honey, I'd have been all over that car because of gravity. The earth loves you so much that it's always trying to keep you on it. It wants constant contact with you. That's how much the earth loves you. That's how important you are to this here world. So again, the law called gravity cannot change. It can only be suspended. You cannot change a law. So whenever you sow a particular kind of seed in this here earth, you are going to reap that harvest, a harvest of whatever that thing is. Now, what does kindness bring? Kindness may bring gentleness. So there are attributes, right? Kindness is not just, if I show you kindness kindness has many faces. If I show you kindness by offering you a drink of water when you're thirsty, that's relief, right? That's relief. That's satiation, relief, same thing, right? If I show you kindness by telling you the truth about, let's say you think you look a particular way in this particular outfit, but I save you from walking outside and having other people ridicule you, that's protection. That's a covering. And all I did was tell you the truth. If I show you kindness by, what are some other examples? I mean, whatever thing you can think of that represents kindness in your mind, whatever that kindness is, whatever that act is that you have sown into the life of someone else, or even into your own life, you can be kind to yourself. It's okay. Let's say you show yourself the kindness of rest, because trust me, I've been in situations where I've been tired as hell and I would keep going because I wanted another kind of I wanted something else from people. I wanted admiration and adulation and adoration and all this other stuff from other people, and I wasn't giving all those things to myself. I was just doing, going. But when I gave myself the kindness of just getting some rest, I gained in my reaping in that was I gained clarity. My body gained healing. I was able to, be more effective in the ways that I wanted to be effective with those people. And I ended up getting the adoration, admiration, and adulations because I was more clear and I was able to be a better support to the people that I was trying to get all this information from. Get all this these emotional investments from in the first place. So whatever it is that you are sowing, that's the thing that you're going to reap. That's the thing that's going to come back to you. The third law that I want to discuss is this. This is about your harvest. You will reap your harvest in a different season than when you sowed it. Sometimes that's the real hard part, isn't it? Sometimes it's like, but I want it and I want it now. Sometimes that happens. I want it and I want it now. I did this great thing. I put this seed in the ground. I want my harvest right now. I'm looking for my fruit. You will always reap in a season that is different from when you sowed. There is always a gestation period. I have a couple of plants. I'm so proud of myself. I got a couple of plants and I'm growing these plants. Now, I did not grow these plants from seedlings because myself, I personally simply did not have the patience that it would have taken in order to grow these plants from seedlings. So I bought just juvenile plants. I bought small plants. One of them is an aloe plant. And when I tell you that my aloe plant is growing like gangbusters. Child, every time I look, it's a new little aloe shoot coming up. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get a bigger pot soon, right? In fact, I had that aloe plant maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I had to put it in a bigger pot. It still is a small plant, but I moved it to a pot that was a little bit bigger than the pot that it came in because it was very small. But within a couple of weeks, I had to move it into a bigger pot. When I moved it into a bigger pot, I moved it into a pot that was much bigger so that it would have room to grow. My prediction is that in about 3 more weeks, I'm going to have to move that aloe plant into an even bigger pot. And eventually, I'm going to have to put the aloe plant in a big-ass pot that I'm going to have to start breaking it up and putting pieces of aloe into other pots. Like I see this happening. Now, I bought that aloe plant at the end of spring going into summer. We're in fall. By the time we get to moving, breaking it up and, putting it into more pots, we're going to be in winter. Even though I didn't grow that aloe plant from a seedling, I still am reaping aloe shoots, new aloe leaves. And I'm going to tell you something, honey. I use my aloe. I haven't begun to use my aloe yet. And I'm talking about the stalks are coming up. They so thick and juicy. And I'm like, honey, when it's time for me to use this aloe, I'm giving that aloe plant a year before I decide that, okay, now it's time for me to begin taking stalks and using this aloe. Now, if there was some emergency, if one of us got a burn or something, I might go and grab one of the fattest ones and put some aloe on it. But then again, I probably won't because I actually have some raw aloe in my refrigerator that was purchased. And I use that over the summer for sunburns and stuff like that. And it's food grade, so we also ingest it, etc. But I now have an aloe plant that is going to supply me all of that and more for years to come. You always reap in a season that is different from the season in which you sowed. Now, that's the story of the aloe plant. If I wanted to, so I would like, where I live now, I don't know if I can even grow an avocado tree, but I would love to grow an avocado tree. And I got some tips on how to grow an avocado seedling into a small sapling. And from there, I'll be able to take the sapling and grow it, into a small tree. And from the small tree, then I got to find some place where I can actually, because, I don't know if you know about avocado trees, but they grow to be humongous. Like they can cover half a city block. They grow really big. But if I take an avocado seed and I grow this, I get it to root, and then I, go from rooting it to getting it to a sapling, to getting it to a tree, to getting it, it's going to take years before I'm able to pull my first avocado pear off the tree. There's no way, and it wouldn't even make sense for me to try and harvest anything from a root ball or a sapling or even a young tree. Even when it begins to bud as a sapling, because as a sapling, it will produce some fruit, but they're not going to be at their best. They just aren't. They're going to be small because it's a small tree. It's going to be a sapling. It's a baby. It won't be able to produce the big green skin, yellow flesh avocado that I'm looking forward to having and enjoying in my salads. It's not going to be able to produce that. So you have to exercise some levels of patience, perseverance, common sense. You have to be able to exercise some levels of understanding that when you sow, you don't immediately reap. If I was planting a seed in the ground, if I wanted beautiful flowers, or if I wanted fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, I can't plant the seed in the ground and then dig it right back up looking for a fruit. In fact, you destroy the opportunity that this needs in order to produce the harvest that you're looking for. So when you plant seeds in the ground, one of the things that appears to happen is it looks like the seed dies. A lot of times, sowing looks like death. A lot of times you can think that you have seen the last of that thing. It's just not going, like nothing good is going to come from that. I had, so when I got the aloe plants, one of the other things that I did was I was trying to root a rose bush. I had read someplace that I could use honey to stimulate root growth from the stem of a rose bush, a cut rose. And I was supposed to put it in a potato and then put the potato, in the soil, et cetera, et cetera. But I can tell you that I didn't have a lot of instruction. And I think I ended up killing it because I kept watering it. I kept watering it. And I think, like, in hindsight, I believe what was supposed to happen was that I didn't need to water the potato or the soil or anything else, that the potato itself would, along with the honey, would have provided whatever nutrients this stalk needed in order to develop a root system or develop whatever it was going to develop. I think it was supposed to get all of that from the potato, but I believe that I overwhelmed the potato and the whole ecosystem by continually watering the soil where the potato was. This is what actually ended up happening. The potato itself began to kind of sprout, those things that look like it's going to start rooting. The potato itself began to do that, but the stalk wasn't doing anything. So I'm not sure what was supposed to happen and why it went the way that it did. I am going to try it again. But I did lose patience with it. The reason that I know that the potatoes started to grow, you know, those little spuds and stuff like that, because I didn't want a potato plant. I didn't want a white potato plant. So I really didn't care very much about what was happening with that. So I dug it up. I dug it up. And I feel like that might have been the reason that that plus all the watering is probably why I ended up not getting from that planting what I thought I was going to get. So I am going to wait. I am going to wait a bit, and I'm going to start again. I'm probably going to set it up in the winter, right? And just leave it be. Just leave it there until spring and see what happens. That's my intention. I'm going to see what happens. But yeah, I dug it up. And digging it up just didn't seem like that was a good idea. And I knew that going in, and that probably is not a good idea, but I did it anyway. I did it anyway, just because I was so anxious to see this thing work. I was really anxious to see it work. But a couple things that I learned, if I'm not mistaken, I realized later that the honey that I used was not really honey. I didn't read the bottle closely. It said honey syrup. So it wasn't really honey. Now, there is a place nearby me that there's a honey farm nearby my house. And I have made contact with them, and I have purchased honey from them, and I ate that shit up fast because it was delicious. And it makes sense that I live in another place that I should be consuming local honey. So I will get some more of that, and I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a pound of honey that is specifically for the plants that I want to grow, or something that I want to root here. My point is, the point in me explaining all of this is that the seasons are going to continue to change. You can only reap in a season that is different from the season in which you sowed, in which you planted. You can't pull, even if it's a day later, you can't pull fruit from a seedling. You can't. There's no fruit to pull. The seedling is the spark of life in order to get to the fruit, but you got to give it time to mature. It has to gestate. It has to grow. It has to come into its own. It has to come into fruition. So just recognize that is one of the laws of the harvest. This is a good one. This is a good one. This is when we start getting into the juicy. This is the one that make you feel good, right? The fourth law of sowing and reaping is that you always, this is the part where you want to mark this. Tell your friends, come watch it. You always reap more than what you sowed. Is that not good news? Is that not good news? That sounds like compound interest to me, right? Because we're talking about money. I know I ain't said money a lot lately in this conversation, but we're talking about money. You always reap more than you sow. So you put one seed in the ground, just one. And that seed, you nurture that seed, you nurture that soil, you make sure it gets enough light, nutrients, water, everything that it needs, right? It begins to sprout. First there's a little sprout, then you end up with a sapling, and then the sapling becomes a young tree, and then the young tree becomes a mature tree, and the next thing you know, there are fruit on the tree. And there's so many fruit on the tree, you can't even count them. And all that came from one seed. One seed. Just one. Just one seed. Isn't that good news? You always reap more than you sowed. You don't have to put everything in order to get everything out. You only need to put in a little bit. So let's talk about your money. Let's talk about your money. Where you're putting it, how you're dealing with it, what you're doing with it. So again, if you are someone who believes in the Bible, you believe that the Bible is the God-breathed and inspired word of the Lord himself, written by men, inspired by the Holy Ghost, carried by the apostles, all of that, if you believe all of that, then you believe that there's work that you got to do while you're here on this earth. So while you're here on this earth, what work are you doing? Are you doing God's work? Can you do God's work without money? That's the real question. Can you do God's work without money? If you are not, if you recognize that while you're here on earth, again, second most discussed topic in the Bible after the word God is money. God believes that money is important. That's why he did that. He knows that if you're going to live here on this earth, you're going to need some money. So if you are going to be running around here doing the Lord's work, how you getting the money? Are you continually begging for money? Is that what you're doing? Are you walking around with your hat in your hand? Or are you putting your money in places where it can grow? We're talking about the harvest. Everything that you sow grows. Remember, you only reap what has been sown. And you are harvest. Did you know that? Did it occur to you? I mean, think about it. We even refer to the fertilization of the egg or the ovum in the womb. We talk about children being the seeds of their parents. You are the multiplication. Has that not occurred to you? You are the multiplication. You are the harvest. You are the harvest for your parents, your grandparents, all your ancestors. It's you. This is why this economic healing piece is so important. I was at a brunch and learn yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that in many communities, namely communities of people of color, especially people of color who look like me, all that we don't have a whole lot of discussion about what financial instruments are, how to access them, how to use them, how to assess and evaluate them, how to reassess and reevaluate them, what it means as you continue to matriculate through life, what it means when you're nearing the end of a term. We don't talk about these things so that we can continue to bring in a bigger and bigger harvest. You should be bringing in a bigger harvest this time than you did the last time, right? You should be doing that. And you should be a bigger harvest to your bloodline than your parents were. And your children should be a bigger harvest to your bloodline than you are. And their children should be a bigger harvest to the bloodline than they are. And it should go on and on. It should be perpetuating itself perpetually. That's the way that this world is designed. Remember, we talked earlier about what happens to a harvest when there are not enough workers in order to bring it in. When the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few, what happens to that harvest? It continues to grow. It gets to a point where it is what we come to know as overgrown. It becomes forests. It becomes ecosystems. It becomes the sustainer of life for things that we didn't even know existed. This is what's supposed to happen. If we would just leave the harvest, if we would just leave plants and things like that alone, if we didn't harvest them, if we just kind of lived amongst it, this thing would overgrow. We would live in the trees. The earth would cover us. The earth would provide for us. This is how it goes. This is what happens. Is that making sense to you? You with me? You feel me? That's how the thing goes. So you always reap more than you sow. You got to be able to, if you're going to be on God's earth doing God's work, you're going to have you some money. There are certain things you should be doing. Now, me, myself, I personally, part of the reason why I do this show is it ministers to me. But the other part is because, look, I can help you. I can help you. The next class begins. Hold on. Let me tell you right now. The next class, financial self-defense. I don't think I have ever clearly defined to you all what financial self-defense is. But in a word, financial self-defense is protection against calamity. Okay? The same way that physical self-defense is protection against physical calamity, financial self-defense is protection against financial calamity. Y'all with me? Financial calamity. We know that financial calamity happens. We know, we've lived through it. If you're watching me, you are old enough to remember what happened just a little over 10 years ago. You remember what happened in 2008. Now, if you weren't holding real estate and all that kind of stuff, then, you might not have felt as affected by it, but jobs got a little tighter, money went a little less far, didn't go as far as it used to. Maybe you saw some cars get lost. Everybody knew about the housing crisis and all the foreclosures. All of that stuff happened only about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. So during that time, Black families in particular were especially hard hit, having lost 95% of their wealth. Black families lost 95% of their wealth during the last financial calamity in this here country. How did that happen? Well, about 58% of Black wealth at that time was stored in their homes. It was stored in their homes, the equity in their homes. And when the housing crisis happened and home values crashed and homes had mortgages on it that was bigger than what the homes were worth, people ended up losing their homes. They lost the equity, 58%. And 37% of their wealth, hey, Kiwi, thank you for joining, cousin. 37% of Black wealth at that time was locked into 401ks. Because isn't that what we were taught? Your employer is giving you free money. Make sure you're taking advantage of your 401k. Listen, there's a whole conversation that we can have about why 401ks are a scam. They've been a scam from the beginning. They've been a scam from the beginning. You can argue with me, you can fight with me, it ain't gonna change the fact that it's been a scam from the beginning. Whereas pensions were required by law and had everyone who had an equity position in their job, meaning they had been there for a certain amount of years, got a pension. And your employer covered all the costs of the pension. You did not have to put your money into no pension. It wasn't until people started robbing pensions and depleting pensions that they came up with this scam called the 401k, where it became voluntary for those of you who wanted to contribute to your own retirement. Back in the day, it was expected that you would work for a company for 30 years and retire with a pension and a gold watch. That's how it went down. Then they switched it from this guaranteed money for your retirement because they expected, you gonna work 30 years for us, you good to us, we're gonna be good to you. After that happened and people started robbing the pensions and all of this, the shysters came up with a way for companies to save a whole lot of money by no longer guaranteeing the financial security of people who had dedicated their lives to this company. Pensions were mandatory and everybody was covered. 401ks are voluntary and you opt into that. And then your employer is limited in how much he can even contribute to your overall annual contribution out of your paycheck. You are putting your own money away as opposed to your employer putting money away for you. But that's another conversation for another day. 37% of Black wealth back in 2008 was lost. When you add 58 plus 37, you get 95% of Black wealth gone in 2008 because two financial pillars of our society crashed. That is a calamity. That is what financial calamity looks like. Me, myself, I personally am here to say to you, listen, I know some ways that you, just like me, can protect yourself from going through that again. You don't have to go through that. You don't have to participate in any recession ever again in your life. And there's several ways that we can discuss if you want to know how to join me on this journey away from financial calamity. My next class convenes Saturday, October the 19th. Now, if I was you and I was smart, I would be in Celebrity Mary's inbox going, yo, how can I be down? Let me tell you. You make a $200 non-refundable deposit to secure your position. I only take 10 people at a time. I make sure that I am teaching you in the class. I can't teach more than 10 people because it's just me teaching right now. But the beauty of it is I got 6 incubating right now. I got 6 people incubating right now who will be able to teach this class at some point in the future. They just got a few more steps to go to get their certification on. And then 10 can easily go to 20. And 20 and 30 and 60. And let me tell you, this thing can grow exponentially. I have a plan. Scaling up doesn't necessarily or only mean getting bigger in one way. And it certainly doesn't only mean that I come up. I'm looking to share the wealth. I'm looking to teach people how to do this so that they not only can they do this for themselves, but they can do this for their families and they can do this for their posterity. Shameless plug. I'm the fucking man. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. October the 19th. If you got any, like I said, if you want to understand, learn, be able to recognize, see, peep game, see a setup coming, then my class is where you want to be. What you learn when you're in my class is how the credit system works. And I know credit is a dirty word for some of y'all, and some people get real scared when I start talking about credit. But when I tell you that credit money is the most real money you can get out here in these here streets, it is what it is. Them little folding pieces of paper, they keep printing them. They keep printing those little pieces of paper, and you know what that does? It depletes the value. It becomes less and less value every time they run a new set of money. Did y'all know that? Greetings, Samir. Thank you very much for joining. Did y'all know that? So I am just saying to you, there is a way out. My class, I teach you financial self-defense is protection against financial calamity. There's no reason for anybody who is connected to me to not have all the wealth that they want to have. Don't let yourself continue to be prey for the predators. You either at the table or on the menu. Me, myself, I'm eating. And I'm inviting you to join me. Now, in addition to that, of course, I stay trading in the foreign exchange market. Yes, I'm back, baby. I'm back, and I'm better than ever. I had a conversation with someone yesterday who was interested in learning how to trade. I'm with it. I can teach you. Not only can I teach you, I can connect you with other people who can help you to continue your learning and to continue learning on your own. I can show you how to come up with a couple of quick strategies to get you some money in your pocket, but I'm not the only one. What I have become really good at is leveraging the relationships that I have with people who do fantastic, amazing, wonderful things. So if you want to know about that, hit me up. I'm with it. I can help you with that. I can help you. So, like I said, if what you want to do, if you are in a situation where you want to be able to live your best life, if you want to be in a situation where you never have to worry about money again because you know how to create it, you know how to be the bank, I'm the bank. If you want to learn how to do that, then I'm your girl. Make sure that you hit me up. Feel free to inbox me. You can ask me on here too. It don't matter to me. I'm over the part where I'm trying to save you from yourself. I don't want to work with those people anymore. If I have to hide the information so that you don't exclude yourself, then you're not for me. I'm ready to work with people who are ready to work. I'm ready to work with people, and I want to work with people who have something to protect. I want to work with people who have something to lose, and they want to make sure that they don't. I'm cool with working with people who, just starting out and want to get on. I'm cool with working with those people, but your mind, you gotta be ready. I don't want to slow myself or other people down anymore. I don't want to do that. For a long time, I was, pretty much begging for the poor, huddled masses, the filthy, unwashed masses. I don't want that anymore. Y'all too much work. Go work on yourself, work on your mind, get your mind right, get your heart right. Do that and then come to me. Or come to me ready to work. Come to me willing to make whatever changes you need to make in your current situation so that you can have the lifestyle that you want to have going forward. Come to me like that. Come to me ready. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Here I am. I'm right here. Ain't none between us but space and opportunity. I'm right here. So anyway, y'all, you know what I'm about to tell you. I love you. And there is absolutely nothing that any one of you could ever do about it. Peace.